Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, more Arc Raiders. Today we're talking about more mistakes that I've been making that I'm trying to rectify, little gameplay improvements, as well as useful or interesting things that you might not have known. Hopefully this can be useful to you too. So let's begin. First up, a quick tip about comboing specific heals and shields. Essentially, what's happening here is a massive burst of raw healing and raw shield restoration in the middle of a fight. The concept is simple. Take raw healing, bandages, that kind of thing. We all know that based on the bandage you're using, you're going to get a certain amount of healing over time, and it takes a bit of time to actually take effect. In the middle of a fight, that might not be quick enough. There are examples of other potent healing options like the Vita spray, but what we're looking at here is the Vita shot, which is basically going to give you half your health back as soon as it finishes. So it's a long channel, but it gives you the heal immediately when finished. Combine that then with a bandage, and what you get is this potent heal over time where you wouldn't want to swing anyway. You're also layering a Vita shot into that, because normally you can't reactivate a second bandage or a second heal while a bandage heal is going, but a Vita shot can overlap it. So you bandage, then you Vita shot, and suddenly you're full health in a moment. This also works with shields though. Of course, when you're using your shield recharges, that's going to be a gradual shield restore over time, and in most cases you can't apply a different shield something at the same time, but you can with the surge shield recharger. So you get the shield recharger going, then you pop a surge over that at the same time, bursting back to full shield all at once. So this is a really impactful sort of panic heal and restore button that I'm running now whenever I can. Next, I want to talk about noisemakers and Jolt mines specifically. On Stellar Montis, you're dealing with a lot of close areas, tight rooms, where there's one way in and one way out. I want to recommend for Stellar Montis in particular, generally for maps, sure, but that map is super good for this, anything that warns you of someone's presence pushing you, especially in solo. Noisemakers and Jolt mines are perfect for that. Jolt mines are going to pop like a mini showstopper, triggering a mini stun on someone. And if you're close enough, you can punish them really effectively. But this also works with something as simple and cheap as a noisemaker. It's essentially a proximity alarm. And a lot of people aren't aware of these, it feels like. Like, they're hearing the sound, they don't know what it is. They hear it so irregularly. And I think that's a really big pro for it. As it is just a common grey quick use item, it's not expensive to make. But if you want to protect yourself as you're extracting in the different places that are very exposed in Stellar Montis, or maybe you're going and looting the assembly area or anywhere really, having that alarm on the corridors outside of the door that you're in, it gives you that like half-second warning to be prepared getting out of the loot. Especially when a lot of looting down there is a lot of like heavy, loud breaching, leaving you very exposed. So bring some sort of mine or protection, noisemaker, whatever. Next, I want to talk about the fact that I actually rate the heavy shield in Stellar Montis specifically. Yes, it's undeniable that 15% reduced movement speed is rough, you feel it, but the damage reduction is 52.5% and you get an extra bar of shield compared to a medium shield. If you have 5 points in use of the weight, you're going to reduce the impact of a heavy shield, which further goes into this concept. But it's the idea that Stellar Montis is so close range heavy with all the shotguns and venators and that kind of thing. That extra 10% damage reduction, the one extra shield notch, I feel like it goes a long way. An argument for heavy shields then is close range trading PvP in general. With a light shield for certain, you're going to need to recharge the shield and probably heal after any exchange. With a medium, maybe you have that chance to continue the fight with a bit of shield left over. But with a heavy, you can pop a quick heal and use the leftovers of your shield to swing aggressively on someone and outtrade them. As they expect a little moment to recover and you just don't take it and push them because you've got a shield left over, it shocks people. Medium and heavy shields in general will last a lot longer with durability, fight after fight, compared to light. And right now with the infinite spawns on that map, it feels like having that durability does go a long way. In my opinion, if you're going to run a heavy shield, I recommend the Tactical Mark III Defensive. This gives you the shield recharger built in, which is going to help you maintain the sort of durability of your shield, keeping it going throughout many fights, with less investment from you because it's integrated. And of the few options that actually allow heavy shields, I just feel like this is the most useful. And you can combine it with that concept of a regular shield recharger as well for burst restore. It should also be said that heavy shields do recycle pretty well. To craft one, you need 1 power rod and 2 voltage converters. Repairing one actually costs 2 arc circuitry and 1 voltage converter, so I think they're very respectable in terms of repair value. When you recycle it though, you're going to get exactly that, 2 arc circuitry and 1 voltage converter. In regards to those power rods, it's 2 advanced electrical components and then 2 arc circuitry. So overall, I would say you buy one or find one and then repair it quite a lot, because probably the most expensive part is the power rod, where repairing is shockingly cheap, especially with how they made arc circuitry a level 2 craft, and it only costs arc alloy to make these, or you just get them galore from arc and arc probes in general. Alright, next I've just got a quick one for you. When I'm in Stellar Montis, I'm up against corners, I'm playing very close to all kinds of environments, and I keep barrel stuffing my gun. This is a major thing you gotta watch out for in Tarkov, right? And it's something I'm very much used to with longer barrel guns. But when you're in third person and you're trying to peek around the corner, I catch myself pressing into the corner, and there's this important aspect of this type of gameplay, especially in Stellar Montis, where you're swinging, firing, and going back into cover in that like half moment. In Tarkov, I'm able to do this by doing fast leans, or generating momentum for inertia, but it's a bit different in this game, which is a bit more arcadey, obviously. And something that keeps tripping me up is actually something that happens with the crosshair, where when you've got your gun up, but the bullet is not actually going to pass through the cover because while your camera sees around the corner, your character isn't round the corner yet. They've got this weird UI thing where it messes with your crosshair in that kind of moment. So in the training area, let's just like look at that. You see I'm pressed up against this thing, and as I aim in, obviously I'm not going to be able to fire through this beam or whatever. So my crosshair is doing this weird thing where it's showing the circle as where the bullet actually will go. And while that definitely has its uses, I'm trying to like quick peek fire and back into cover, and it's just kind of getting in the way. I was complaining about this issue when playing with some friends, and apparently this whole time there's been a setting to turn that off, so I'm gonna have a look at it. So under accessibility and blocked line of fire, there's actually 2 options. Firstly, we have smooth, which is going to slowly transition between each crosshair as I'm going. Whereas if I have that off, it's instant. This is nice because I've got this like weird UI thing, and as soon as I'm ready, it pops into action. So you can see that right about here is where I'm firing a lot of the time, which is part of the issue, as you can see. With that setting off, I can clearly see when the clearance is there and when it isn't. In regards to the weird UI thing, move crosshair when line of sight is actually blocked. So as I press in here, it's still giving me this like weird UI thing where it's like, hey, look, your bullet's not going to go through that wall. But that's good because it still gives me that clear indication. But it's a bit subtler here where you can see that it's the center dot that's having that issue, not actually where I'm aiming. Have a play around with this and see if it helps you. But at very least, I would turn off smooth move when line of fire is blocked. That's a clear benefit. Also, while I'm here, I imagine the crosshair settings are going to come up. Here's a quick look at my crosshair settings. If you want to copy it, there they are. Next up, I want to talk about Showstoppers and how this interacts in PvE and PvP, and how it's absolutely busted good on specifically Stellar Montis and these close range environments. Something that maybe you don't realize, and it took me a bit of time to really understand, is the nature of the EMP. It's essentially like an impact effect. So the moment that any of the spheres you're throwing it contacts anything, it just pops. And this can be a good and bad thing. In PvP, this means that it's going to trigger the moment it encounters any hitbox. It's not going to go past them because it's going to pop as soon as it comes near them. Then because it popped, it's going to CC them, forcing them in that straight stand-up animation. Like in this example, forcing the guy out of low cover behind the counter, giving us a free kill. You just got to be careful because if this instant pop happens too close to you, you also CC yourself, which can happen on that map. But when it comes to dealing with arc, it's basically just deactivating part of them, right? So, bastions, bombardiers, you deactivate them by taking out a leg. Let's say a rocketeer. To defeat a rocketeer, you want to take out 2 turbines on one side, then it slams into the ground and dies. So, with a showstopper, your goal is to take out 2 turbines specifically on the same side. What that will do is bring it straight out of the sky, crashing into the ground, taking damage, letting you free shoot it, or even climb on it for some funny melee shenanigans. But the AoE isn't like infinite. And this is why this is important to understand, especially when dealing with rocketeers using a showstopper. If you want to bring it down, you gotta deactivate the 2 turbines. Let me show you examples of how this doesn't work. If you throw a showstopper into the direct bottom center, you might think, oh yeah, all 4 turbines are going to be turned off. No, what you're really doing is just turning off the rocket fire, as it were, from the turret that's underneath. This is the same from the top, though, it would appear. Dead center in the top, while on top of it, didn't turn off the turbines how I would like. The most reliable way to do this, then, is to throw it at its essential face, as the frontal AoE hits both front turbines, bringing it down, like you've broken those. You can also do this at the center back or the center side. Any of these is going to work as long as 2 turbines are off. The warning here is that it will fall a certain distance before reactivating, right? So you also need to think about how high up it is, how far it's going to fall before it touches the ground. So there is more to consider with that EMP, the radius of it and how it works. But God, is it good on Stellar Montis. And yeah, use it like a temporary deactivation of certain parts of an arc. For more Stellar Montis related tips, I want to talk about the assembly area. The assembly workshops is a tough place. Here you have a room that has an upper level, and here you have another room that has an upper level. On the left, for example, there's only one staircase that leads up, meaning if someone's up there, it's quite hard to push them because you're coming up one way that they're probably looking or even mining or whatever. If you go inside this room, there's a massive staircase that leads even higher than the assembly workshop, allowing you to look down and across. If you drop down from the window here, you're now equal level with the assembly workshop windows of those upper floors, letting you shoot through and into the players. Technically, you can jump into this metal cylinder here on the assembly line, giving you like a window of great cover to shoot in at them. And there's a little bonus tip. Inside of this silo, turns out all kinds of containers can spawn here. I've seen weapon crates as well as these med bags. And I had a weird one where I thought, well, what about the other silo on the other side? I took a zip line to get over there because I couldn't see another way. And there was a grenade case, but I couldn't interact with it. So hopefully that's not just bugged. But yeah, you can go into the South Assembly super high up room, get into the silo, there's containers inside of it. And it can work as an incredible surprise ambush on people inside of the assembly workshops. Something to think about. Last time I also mentioned the outposts on damn battlegrounds and how there's actually an upper level to all of them, which can spawn weapon cases, med cases, grenade cases. They're well worth checking. If the cases didn't spawn below, they're very likely spawning above. There's a few ways you can clamber and climb up there, but consistently there's like this double stack shelf thing that I climb. And I mentioned just sort of in passing, you can sort of jump out from that and then mantle to get up, but it can be a bit awkward. People in the comments were saying that there's actually an easier way, where basically you crouch and back up to the edge. This lets you jump consistently and then therefore trigger the mantle in a more reliable way. So it's probably like 10 times easier than trying to do it standing up. Figured I'd mention it. Here's an interesting one. I've currently got 36 out of the 74 blueprints, and I feel like that's good because they just don't exist. But something that's happening right now is this big discussion around the lightning storm maps and that specific event. I mean, think about it. That event doesn't have anything going on other than lightning strikes occurring. Technically, you can get double the trial points, but you can do that in safer, more reliable events, ones that even last longer. So what's the purpose of that storm? Well, in our testing, it seems like there might be more blueprints spawning on it. Like there's a suspiciously high return rate. I've got more blueprints in like the last 2 days, specifically going to storm maps and just going and looting commercial and valuable areas, than I have playing normally and opening weapon cases, which I've been really focusing, over many runs. Now, a night raid has increased loot, but without the lightning danger, so you'd rather do that, right? But the lightning storm is essentially the most useless, worst map event because you're just suffering more danger for no bonus reward over a night raid. So right now, it feels like blueprints have higher odds of spawning in the storm based on our experience. It would explain why we've struggled to find them while ignoring that event generally. It'd be funny if this was true and Embark have been watching us all complain about blueprints while, ignoring the storm event. I'm not saying this is factual, but I am saying it's worth a try, specifically commercial areas. But if you want a deeper look at this and specific locations of where to loot and what kind of results we're getting where and when and why, we have a whole video about this on the channel right now. Alright, last couple things that I want to mention just popping into the training yard for this. It's the idea of like panicking in the middle of a fight and hitting one of these. Like one of the most useless roles in the game. You barely move, you're an easy to shoot target. To be fair, your head hitbox is going to be harder to hit, which is definitely relevant. But it's the idea of using a toro, and I'm watching people do this. It's just like, it's not as effective as it should be. What is way more effective is firing the shotgun, sprinting and rolling, which is a sprint roll, which goes double the distance by default, even more so obviously if you've got that one skill point. A normal roll barely moves, where a sprint roll is majorly impactful, and if you're trying the Toro gameplay, you want to be mixing up your distances and angles and all that in between that period where you're pumping the shotgun and then, actually getting your turn again. So if you're in the middle of a fight, just remember to sprint roll rather than normal roll, because normal roll is gonna get you killed, especially if it's a duo or trio shooting you. Last thing I want to mention as well is something that it took a while for me to clock. It's the vaulting mechanic. If you're in the middle of a fight, you're trying to get up on someone, climb onto a rooftop where they are, or whatever it is, you need to make sure you actually have stamina, because you can see the vault animation is relatively quick when you have it. But when you're actually low on stamina, it affects vaulting, which is something I've not really stopped to consider. It's way slower. And obviously I'm not restoring stamina while I'm doing that. So if I've got low stamina and I'm pushing someone or trying to vault on someone, now I'm here, I'm barely able to move at all. I'm a free target right in front of them. In those moments where you have a brief window to sort of recover before you make a play on someone, letting yourself recover stamina, popping an adrenaline shot is going to make a major difference in your ability to actually fight and do something now you're up there. And I must admit, for my prestige, I'm considering, what I'm going to do with my points. Things like heroic leap might actually be relevant for me, not to mention vigorous vaulter. Vaulting is no longer slowed down while exhausted. This is something that I originally read. I was like, yeah, that's never going to be relevant. These days, I am thinking a little bit differently. And since we're going to have a bit more points to spare, it's definitely something to think about. But yeah, there you have it. That's my next set of things you might not know, mistakes you may still be making, things I've been working on and improving my gameplay with. As always, I hope this was useful, and if it was, do drop a like. If you'd like to add to any of the topics today, let us know in the comments, or make a suggestion for a different useful thing we could talk about. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.